think I've been an I think I've been an NASW member since 1978, faithfully, because it was the right thing to do. So thank you very much for that. Something happened here. Let's see. Okay. So I want to I welcome everyone to our Owning Your Own Story and the launch of the Latinx Social Work official journal, social work series. I mean, we're so excited about doing this. I was one of the authors in the second series of books and also in Madrina of this initiative. And I'm going to start by quoting Dr. Lizette Nieves, an author from the first volume of the Latinx and Social Work, who said, "Owning your own narrative is the true embodiment of freedom." And Dr. Linda LaSalle Bryant, who couldn't be here with us this evening, says, "We also know that owning our narrative is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, because we need to go through the process of acknowledging the pain, the shame, the anger, the sadness that may come up. Our challenge is to allow the pain to become pride, joy, and healing." End of quote. It is our hope that together this journal, and on the side, I review the journal. I truly believe in reflective practice. This journal, as an educator, I strongly, I don't know how, advocate, right? That you look at it, you do it. It's a way of you stepping back, looking in, changing, not changing yourself, but, you know, like it's never like narrative therapy, right? Making choices of how perhaps things you have the power to change. And that's all I'm gonna say for now. We know that our stories may help heal others. First heal us, right? Or that we grow, heal others as they see themselves in our narratives. And we too want that healing for ourselves and for our clients and our communities, because this work is really about ourselves, but mainly about our clients. And that's what I've always taught the students, right? And supervisors, because I'm also the director of our social work supervisors program at NYU. You have to be able to teach to take care of the client. And for you to do that, you have to step back, humble, so you can grow. I would like to present the panel and the authors of the Latinx and Social Work. And so it's Erica, Pia, and Olga. Erica was a student of mine many years ago. Pia was a dear colleague. And Olga is someone that I've learned to love in the last year and a half. Very dedicated and accessible and available. And I thank her for that. So why don't you, each of you, take a little time to introduce yourself. And I have several questions. First for Erica and Olga, then for Pia, and then for the four of you. So why don't we start with Erica?
Thank you so much. I still feel like I want to call you Professor Luz. My favorite professor.
I can tell you.
Honestly, this is such a beautiful moment for me, because I'm here sharing space with all of you. And I want to say thank you to you, because you inspired me to move forward in social work by seeing you at NYU stand in front of the classroom and seeing someone that reflects our identity and does this incredible work to support our communities. It really helped push me forward. I want to say thank you to NASW New York State for always supporting us and sponsoring tonight's event. And of course, my journal co-authors, Dr. Linda LaSalle Bryant, who's my madrina. I'm so lucky and blessed. Pia, you and I have been together for so long. Pre this, we've been working together, helping kids get granted wishes in Brooklyn, and now we're doing this. I mean, this is such an honor. And Olga, who I say is my partner in Shine, we've been doing incredible work together. And she was our intern at Latino Social Work Coalition when I was on the board. And now fast forward, she works really closely with me and we do this amazing work. But of course, I want to give big shout out to the 43 other authors of Latinx and Social Work, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1, I have to always give them big shout outs because we were the original collective that was brave enough to really do this work without even seeing the impact and without even understanding what it was going to be like. And Luisa, who I see here, Paula, everyone here, please, I just want you to know that without all of our voices together, this would not have been possible and this movement wouldn't have been started. So I just want to say I'm so honored to be here, and to all the authors of Volume 2 who continue to pave the path for our emerging leaders in social work, your rawness and love is so crucial to the work. Mil gracias to all of you for joining us, and I'm just really excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me. Pass it to Olga.
Hi, everyone. And Erica, I love hearing you talk. Every time I hear you, I just get really excited. So I'm like, you're right? Like, this is exactly why we're here. Hi, everyone. I'm Olga. I am also a social worker. Like Erica mentioned, I met Erica when I was an intern with the Latino Social Work Coalition. And now we're here. I'm working with her as the strategic relationships manager. And I am also one of the authors for Volume 2. And I'm really excited to be here and share a little bit more about, just the journey that has been, sharing the stories with everyone. How I really got inspired from Volume 1, that I never thought that this is something I was going to do. And really just starting with reading the stories from folks that started with the authors from Volume 1, I started to feel a little more empowered and brave, and I just felt the need to be able to do something else. And that really gave me the courage to, step up and say, you know what, this is who I am. Let me go for it. Whatever happens, gonna happen. And now we're here. So I'm super excited to join this conversation and also hear from everyone here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and bienvenidos. I'm Pia Hargrove, so I'm so honored to be here. I came to know Erica quite a few years ago. I'm not even sure how long ago now, engaging with young people and families with Make-A-Wish, which was just a beautiful experience in community and building community connections. And Verge and I have worked together at NYU Silver School of Social Work, where I teach, and I'm an advisor to students and the faculty champion this year, excitedly. And it's just a gift to be part of this project. Latinx and social work, when I read from the first chapter, Erica, I was already so moved by how the stories so intersected with my own experience as a woman in community. And I was just excited about really bringing awareness to the book, to the stories, to all of you as contributing authors, and to your stories and how they impact all of our lives. So we look forward to growing and healing from the intergenerational trauma that many of us speak of, and being in this collective journey together with all of you. So I'm excited about tonight to share about this wonderful journal that we have put together to begin that healing process in community.
Thank you, Erica, Olga, and Pia. And so I'm going to start with Erica and Olga. This is a question for both of you. How would you describe what it means to you to own your story, your narrative, and share it publicly?
For me, it's been a process. It has been a process. It's been a lifelong process. I have to be very honest that I was very ashamed. I didn't have the brave voice that I have now. I assimilated a lot to white culture when I first came to this country, because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And I would also witness my parents' struggle, which was also my struggle, and sharing the stories about myself and the way that we moved through this world as immigrants. But I really like to say that I'm indigenous because I am born in Ecuador, and really now reclaiming my heritage and who I am. is part of my healing journey. This is what happened, is that I started seeing myself truly with eyes of love. I really started understanding the reasons why we had our traumas, understanding the systems that caused us the harm. I started understanding why my parents would speak or act the way they do, why community would act and respond to our identities, how we internalized and externalized all of these emotions. And when I finally became more aware of my own healing and my own traumas, I learned how to start breaking those cycles of intergenerational traumas. And now I have my daughter who's 22 years old, and I'm really proud to say I've raised her with so much love, but also no longer hiding behind secrets, and now owning the truth and really being honest about our experiences as individuals who migrated to this country and able to do anything we set our mind to do. And so really sharing my story has been a gift, because we created a platform to do so. And now we don't need to be ashamed, and we don't need to hide behind any veil or any culture that says we should be a certain way. So that was what was really important for me. And that was part of my healing journey.
But is it okay for me to say from shame to proud?
Yes, from shame to proud, very proud and loud.
Proud and loud. Okay. Olga?
I love that from proud to loud. And I think that that's something that I'm also starting to feel like starting to step into a little bit more. When you say sharing your story publicly, I mean, it was really scary. It's still really scary because it hasn't even been a year. Oh my gosh, we did the book launch in October. And if you think about it, it really hasn't been that long, but there's so many beautiful things that have happened since then. For me, really owning your story is, having to be honest with yourself. And that's not something that I've always done. That's just the reality of what it is. That's not something that I've done with myself. That's not something that I've done with my family. And really just writing unapologetically was really hard. I can tell you there was a lot of tears in those, in the keyboard. And I can tell you there was a lot of, like Erica said, shame, a lot of guilt, but also something beautiful that I experienced, like with the more that I kept writing and the more that I kept rewriting and rereading, was, I started to feel more like, okay, this is who I am. And there's nothing wrong with this. But it really has taken, oh my God, it's taken so much. It's also been, I'm learning, like I started to breathe, right? Because when you're like, I started to accept who you are, you started to let go of the parts that you thought, this is what I thought it was. So I've been on this, I feel like I started doing this, when I started social work school, but I wasn't really intentional until I started writing. And also having folks that don't really know much about you, like Erica said, right? Like there's so many secrets that we hold, folks like my family that, I'm not very close to, and then they get to see, everything raw on paper. So it has been a roller coaster, but I can say that it's been very empowering. I am not a person that loves talking in a big crowd. I feel like I'm more like, behind the scenes sometimes, but I feel like this really has allowed me to feel a little more confident and, saying this is who I am. It's been really hard accepting that, there is nothing wrong with the way that I speak, and then just feeling a lot of validation from a lot of folks that joined this beautiful movement. So it has been a journey. It will continue to be a journey. I don't think it would ever end. And I also think that, when we talk about understanding intergenerational trauma, I think that for me also it allowed me to see the wisdom that, like was passed on to us as well. And I feel like a lot of the times we don't focus on that part. So for me, it allowed me to really change the way that I thought of myself, the way that I saw myself, and using more of a strength base, right? Like, there's so much that I've went through, but there's also so much that I was passed on, from previous generations. So I hope that that I continue to feel more comfortable doing this. I know it's definitely been, I feel much better, like talking about like, my experience, whatever is in my chapter. That's definitely something that I couldn't even say out loud, that I couldn't even say to myself. And I think that, the more that I've been processing, it feels easier. And it feels more in a way that I'm like allowing myself to forgive myself for so many things that I felt were my fault, So it really was a blessing to be able to just do this. It was really scary. It was literally like jumping off a plane and like not knowing how to do anything, or even like, I don't know how to swim. going into the water and really just learning to swim. And I feel like I'm floating now. I think I'm floating. I'm not like the best swimmer, but I think that I'm getting there. So yeah, it's just, I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to do this. I know, you know, it's easier to put it in words, and now I'm really practicing, you know, saying it out loud. So that's where I am.
So Olga, what I hear, and I'm just, you know, let me know if it sounds right, you know, you can, you are, your courage, you're resilient.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's been
Thank you.
hard to say I am. And I think saying it, like Erica said loud and proud, like, this is who I am, and accepting it and feeling that that's who I am. So yeah, you got it right on.
Okay. Erica and Olga. Next question. This is like being Miss America or something, right? No. What has been the sweetest aspect of doing so?
I think for me, what we did was we did something that has never been done before. So that's really sweet, to just be trailblazers and do something that
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes.
Just elaborate.
We were,
you know.
we were taught in social work school that when we go in to meet with our clients, that as we are connected with our communities, we have to almost be like a blank, you know, like a blank slate. Like, just, you can't really share much about yourself. You can't really talk about who you are, where you come from. You really have to just be there and hold space for your clients. But what happens is that when we're working with Latinos and Latinas and Latinx, we need to kind of engage and have personalismo and share a little bit about us so they can build trust with us. So this is part of the culture of us just being more personable, more inviting, more sharing with our own day. So, oh, you coming in late? Oh, I had my, you know, I had to take my dog to the vet, or something so small. You kind of just show some similarities and some vulnerability. So with us sharing our personal narratives, which are some impacted by trauma and intergenerational trauma, we did something that wasn't done before. We talked about ourselves. And so now they're seeing us in a different way. And actually it helped us build community together. And that's the sweetest part of it, because we are no longer being silent about the experiences that we may have as a collective, though we're all not the same, we're not monolithic, but we are having some similar experiences, and we're no longer having to be alone and hold in and be shameful of it. And now that we're talking about this, we are really kind of taking that elitism of academia and books and research, and just talking about our personal stories and making it so much more connected to the community's experience. So that's been the sweetest spot for me.
Thank you so much, Erica. Olga, what's the sweetest thing for you besides your beautiful smile?
Thank you. I went to the dentist not too long ago, so I'm glad that it's working. Honestly, I never met so many Latinx social workers. You know, there were some in school that I got to know, and like I'm still, you know, I'm really connected with them. But I never met so many people, particularly like throughout the country, that are doing similar work and are very passionate. They share similar stories, and that's honestly like that was the thing that made me really like join in and be like, you know what, I want to do this, because there's so many people doing it that you don't even hear, you know, from, that you don't really talk about. There's been a lot of amazing conversations that have been said out loud that, I mean, even within like family groups and with friend groups that you usually don't talk about. And then just being able to sit there and feel uncomfortable and be like, you know what, let's do it. Like, why not? What's the worst thing that could happen? I can tell you, I have a niece, she's 8 years old, and you know, she's from Mexico. She grew up in Mexico, and she knows that I wrote a story, and she loves books and she really wants to read it. And, you know, for many reasons, I was like, you know, we're going to get to read this together when you're 15 or 16 or when you're a little bit older. But just the fact that she's asking a lot of questions that my family hasn't asked, or like that my family has like tried to like be like, okay, we're not going to talk about this. And then just being able to hold space for her and like to be able to like feed her curiosity. Honest, that I wouldn't be able to do this before if I didn't go through this process. So knowing that maybe I'm not going to be able to, you know, do this with my family or do this with like, you know, older, you know, the elder generation, but knowing that I can do this with the younger, the younger folks, like the kids, the teens that like are curious and want to start these conversations that you might call uncomfortable, has been like the best part. I love working with kids. I love working with teens, and being comfortable answering questions and being comfortable saying, you know what, I don't know, let's talk about it, right? Like, what is your experience? And then just validating them. That's definitely been the sweetest part for me.
Thank you. It sounds like both of you talking about relational, right? Relational, expanding your community, and that magic work and social work engagement, right? Engaging with the client. I want to understand you. Maybe let me tell you a little bit about what my experience has been, right? Wonderful. And now it's Pia's turn. Pia, you ready?
Yes.
All right. So the first question we have here for you is, you have been one of the biggest supporters and now an author to this journal. Why was it important for you to become involved? That's the first question.
Okay.
The second question, and I can repeat it if you like. How do you think the first 2 volumes have impacted students and social workers, as we know that you've used it in your classroom, right? And as well as, social workers in the field.
Oh my goodness.
So, okay, let me do the first one again. You have been one of the biggest supporters and now an author to this journal. Why was it important for you to become involved? Let's do that one first.
Okay. So there's this, I'm full with so many different things that are swirling in my mind, but in particular, as I stated, when I read from the first chapter, Erica, and came through, and then I think when I hit Linda's chapter, because we work together and understand sort of the dynamics of teaching in the classroom, and when she shared about the importance of caring for self and her own immigrant journey, and with the nuance of not being an immigrant, because being a Puerto Rican heritage, but how that has been intentionally marginalized by US policy, not really foreign policy, and then further marginalized among many of us in community with how we ostracize people depending on their phenotypical presentation. And we think that's coming from us or our families or our mothers, and it's not. It's coming from a larger societal and global structure that wants us to not love ourselves, that wants us to not look in the mirror and know that who we see is beautiful, no matter the texture of our hair, how pointy our nose is or isn't, how full our body and our hips are. These are ways in which we have been intentionally taught by society, whether it's media, whether it's the images that we see in the news, which are happening right now in reference particularly to our Latinx family, especially from Mexico, where our foreign policy still does not, welcome people into the United States. And those of us who are already here, although we are trying to liberate through this book and not hiding, the reality of many of us have to hide. Because for us to reveal our presence is to also reveal our entire families. And we know that not all our families are here with legal immigration status. So in knowing all of this heaviness that we carry every day as a community, and that we can't speak it in all spaces because it is not safe to do so. And we also acknowledge that we move through different spaces. And like Paula, I don't think we've ever met, but your chapter and speaking, you say identity is many things. It is messy, it is confusing, it can make you feel just as much rejection as it can make you feel acceptance. It is what and who you identify as and with. Only you can make that decision and distinction. And I've experienced that in life where based on my physical presentation, people either receive or reject me, regardless of how I say that I identify. And so that has shaped in a lot of ways how I identify in this moment. And so being in a space, teaching in the university space, looking around and not seeing many people that look like me, and knowing from the few students room to room, the pain that is carried through the identity not being reflected around the room. And then on top of that, when students are reading material that is for the peer-reviewed academic journals, which we certainly, look forward to being a part of, it also leaves out connection for so many other people in the classroom by doing so. When we do have some efforts at diversity and recruitment, we don't necessarily think about, as we expand the diversity of people who are in our classrooms, what does that mean about the level of disparate education that we have around the world and people's ability to even process the material that's presented? So when I read the first chapters and I saw that it was not edited in a way that is taking away the voice of the writers, that it is not edited in a way to make the grammar so perfect that we lose the personalidad, as you said in the book, that we could hear the voice of our mother saying something, of la madrina, of our grandparents, our abuelos. That's what made it powerful in the room. And so I felt like this is speaking to my identities and intersectionality and how I show up on a day-to-day. Maria, you mentioned about your mom was una guerrera. And I feel like my mom was the same way, a really fierce and staunch woman that was always clear, wherever you show up, you are who you are. You may have to pull out different tools to move through that particular space, but be clear with yourself, those are tools for the moment, and then you put them down and you know where home is. And so as I've read through the book, I see the wounds of not having that discernment of when to put those tools down and how that can hurt our very identities, who we see when we look in the mirror, who we read when we write our own story in a journal. How many people have I heard say they no longer journal because when they read back their writing, they're critiquing it because they're saying to themselves, my own journal reflection doesn't reflect the grammar that the classroom wants to see. So all these ways in which we're taught formally as social workers of Latinx identity, it absolutely strips away at the very crux of who we are. So having the privilege and the honor to be in the classroom with the tensions that I have about my body and how I show up, and is that maybe why I'm received in the space, and knowing that my own family may not be received in the same spaces, I always feel that responsibility of rendering that discernment of picking up the tools. Some of it is to get through the coursework, and then knowing when we're in community, whatever, and I tell students, whatever piece of language you have, if that's Spanglish, if that's one word, if that's a Creole, if that's a patois, you use it. Because our resumes will tell us, oh, if you don't have a full proficiency, don't put that on your resume. But when we're going in, I don't know if our sister from El Nido is here, but we're going to El Nido de Esperanza,
Monica.
and we're working with a client. They don't care if you have the full proficiency and your grammar in Spanish is proper. That might actually make them not connect with you the same way. It's at least showing the care and showing the connectivity in how you communicate. And we're at a higher consciousness to understand that's not always about spoken language anyway. That's about our food. That's about a gentle touch on the shoulder. That's about, passing a tissue across our desk to someone. That's about making sure that we have some little canela treats in our office, just as an eye wink to the side when we're in a white space, so people know, oh, okay, I see her. That's the type of things that we need to do. So when I went through the book, I said, this is the perfect way in the classroom to bring this alive without putting my students on the spot to have to share their stories, without me having to share my story all the time. It's the stories of the authors in their actual voices, unfiltered, unadulterated, not whitewashed, so people can hear it and not just hear it, feel what's being said. So when people say they're showing up as an ally, that's just words that are specifically in an institution, because I don't know about y'all, but when I'm in community, I don't hear anybody even use that word. It's like, what are you really doing? What is your action saying? What is your heart saying? I don't care what it says on the canvas bag when you're walking down the street. So this book, I started teaching from and speaking to myself with Linda's chapter of being careful of the sad trophies that she has to her health, because as Latinx identified folk, as Afro-Latinx folk, how we show up overdoing, doing the most all the time, because families are proud when they can come and celebrate us at the award ceremony. They're proud when they can brag about the promotions and the degrees. But what is it doing every time we turn in a paper that we stayed up all night for? Stripping away at us. So we have to listen to the words of wisdom about how we care for self in this moment. And if we do this in collective, if we're intentional about sharing the stories and highlighting, like Olga, you're saying that like hiding behind secrets or thinking things were your fault. No, it's not your fault. But if we're not teaching each other, no, it's no one's fault. This is a global system that has been in place to make us feel that way. We're not imposters. We're real, living, human, and divine beings that show up. We belong in these spaces or we wouldn't be here. And really what the truth is, if you're in this space, you have surpassed every criteria to be there if you actually made it in those seats. So believe that piece of being fearfully and wonderfully made. So the book brings that alive in a way that, because the spaces are not always safe, it takes it away from the professor to have to say it. It takes it away from the students to have to say it, and makes it just live through the stories. And then just sit with the silence and feel it. So that's why, for me, teaching through this, teaching through all the stories, and they all show up in different ways depending who's sitting in front of us. You know, I asked Amelia here if she was Amelia from the book, because Amelia's story, sharing about being in a white environment, but the tension that you have inside, knowing that culturally that's not how you identify, but how do you navigate that space? And we know in these institutions, the white presenting piece is part of the tools to be in those spaces. Just like Erica, you sharing about masking how you speak and all that in different spaces. You know, those are the tools that unfortunately have been necessary in the past, at least, to navigate the spaces. So we're here to decide that we don't have to use those all the time, but we have to do that collectively in order to assert our power. And if and when we do have to use it, to use the discernment of, okay, now I'm back on the block, I'm gonna put it down and remember who I am on the inside.
Thank you, Pia. I think everything that Pia said, and she said a lot, which is important. What she said is how you can use that journal, because we have not arrived yet. And with everything she said, your journey, you have not arrived yet. And many of us have internalized so deeply some of these things that's going to take a while. But even when we're journal, oh, I shouldn't have written it like that. So I'm just, again, supporting the journal. Amelia, did you have your hand up? Or was that a hand, or was that a? Okay.
I was itching my eye, sorry.
Oh, okay. Pia, your second question. You ready now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And how do you think the first two volumes have impacted the student? I think you might have answered, but maybe you want to say something else in addition. And how do you think the first two volumes have impacted students and social workers? You've talked about the students, but what about social workers?
Absolutely. It definitely impacts social workers, because you speak to all the vulnerable, unspeakable things. You speak to having Latinx heritage, but not speaking Spanish, and how our own communities will ostracize us because of that, right? We speak to having a curvy, beautiful body, but showing up at work and feeling that in the professional space, the so-called professional space, that we can't wear the clothes that really make us be reminded of how powerful we are in the spaces that are seeking to diminish us. So these are different pieces of stories that are shared in the book that speak to the workplace. When we show up in a workplace and there may be someone else that shares our identity, but chooses to hide that in the workspace and does not help to mentor or edify or elevate us in the workspace and how we go home feeling every day. So the call to action in the book around, if you're in a space where you carry positionality or any form of power, how are you intentional about helping to amplify the voices of other people reflecting your identity, helping to amplify the voice in the work, bring awareness to the work of other people who are not getting the credit, whether it be because of their youth, because of their complexion, because of their speaking Spanish or not speaking Spanish, or having an accent or not having an accent. It speaks very critically to all these different nuances that show up for us in professional spaces, and how that we must build community. And like Linda says, sigue levantando, how are we continuing to lift others up as we are climbing and not get caught in the corporate capitalistic model, even in social work practice, where we're not helping others. We're invested in helping our clients. But then what does that mean for other coworkers, other colleagues in the field? Are we saying their name in spaces where they're not there? Are we making sure that once they're not in a particular space, that their name and their work and their input is still honored? Because part of why it's important to share our stories is because our stories have been omitted, erased completely from so many contexts of our history in the United States, across Latin America, from Spain, and all over the world. When we've made contributions, once the people who love us are no longer able to share about us, sometimes books are removed from libraries, videos are removed. So we have a responsibility as social workers in the professional spaces to continue to carry these voices. So Luz, Virgen, Verge, I love that you are using all aspects of your name, because something that was important to me was to share your name in being a madrina for this piece. Because I felt like, okay, you may be retiring formally from one particular space, but not from your impact in the field, your impact in community, your impact in our individual lives. And this is how we have to be intentional. So you might not be in that one particular space, trust, I'm always saying your name, that this is carrying your name in a different way. And I hear you intentionally using Virgen Luz, which I like. And it's like, that's an example of how do we keep saying our names in spaces and having them in writing, in video, in artwork. You know, we know literacy is not always something that we have the gift of, because that's also.
No, I thought about that when you nominated me and then Erica, and I said, you know, this is a Latin. Let me call my, it's Wilhelm Tilsa. Oh, let me drop the married name. Let me go with my maiden name, Piña, right? So that's why it's like that. And so it's a little transformation. And Olga talked about the crying. You should have seen me. I didn't want to do it. Erica knew I got sick. But let's move forward, right? This is a lot of transformational experience that we've gone through. Transformational, reflective, powerful. But Pia, I mean, I don't know if this book has gone through the practice curriculum area where the other universities, you know, there's more, Erica, that needs to be done, but I know that you know that. Okay, the next question for all of you. There are two. I hope we have time. It's 6:45. What would you like to share with our audience? We have a lot of people on Zoom here. What would you like to share with our audience about how this unique journal can help in our individual and collective healing transformation? And what I would like to hear there is points, you know. So what do you think you want to share with the group? How would this be helpful? Because this journal is unique. This is very unique, the way the questions are posed, the information that is being provided. And it's not the same in every chapter, if you will. So what would you like to share with our audience about how this unique journal can help in our individual and collective healing / transformation?
I can start. I think from the way that the journal can be used is if you haven't received your copy of this book first, which is the first one, Latinx and Social Work Volume 1, and this one, you're going to hear from 43 incredible human beings that are brave enough to share their stories. As you're reading each one of our stories, some things may come up for you. A lot of feelings may come up. Some people have sent us messages. Many people actually have sent us messages and DM'd us saying, I was crying as I was reading your chapter because I could see myself in the words that you wrote. I had to put the book down so many times, and I had to kind of stop and reflect and really get myself together. It happens. This is what happens because we've never talked about our traumas in a way that we're brave enough to say, I'm breaking the cycle of intergenerational trauma, and I'm going to do this work for myself, and I'm going to put this out there, and I'm no longer going to be ashamed of who I am. The journal can be used as a tool that as you reach each chapter, you reflect and you can process this in a way that it's healing, that you're no longer alone, that you are in community. And if you are in a classroom, or if you are in a place of work where you're going to use this journal to really create spaces to build community, you can reflect together and you can build community together, because you're no longer having to be quiet about your experiences, because we started sharing our own. And if you're feeling comfortable, you can either journal it or you can speak it. And it's not just journaling. There's so many other things that are part of the journal, but I'm not going to give it away because I'll pass it to Olga so she can share her thoughts.
I love that. And I mean, the main thing that I felt right when I saw the very first part of the journal, before I jumped in, and because I got really excited about this, because I know that for me, when I started thinking of like owning my story, first of all, having to say something out loud that I'm not even acknowledging could be really, really, really hard, pretty impossible, to be honest. And I'm not a public speaker, and that's not something that I wanted to do, like actually go ahead and say, like once I started understanding that I wanted to tell the world. But I know writing was easier. It was much more helpful. I was allowed to make mistakes, cross things out, delete, change, whatever you call it. And the reality is that like not all of us might want to say it out loud, and that's okay, right? Like part of like being honest with yourself, it's like understanding you and understanding what you have gone through. And you don't have to say it out loud if you don't want to, but putting it on paper is so helpful. I've never been the person that likes to write. Particularly because I've been that person that is like, it's not perfect, I cannot do it. And also, right, like my English is not perfect, so I can't really be writing this because, I don't even know all the animals in English. So like, why am I even gonna do this? But just writing those things, right, like in Spanglish, writing things that might make me feel a little ashamed saying out loud, but putting it there allowed me to be like, all right, like I have to be honest, right? Like it's like you said, it's a process. I don't think it's we will ever get to the, okay, I'm fully healed. Like, I don't really believe that that's the case, but I do believe that we are improving every time that we acknowledge parts of ourselves, and you don't have to say it out loud. I know that that's something that I'm working on. There's many things that I'm still not able to say out loud, but I know I now have a journal that allows me to at least put whatever's in my mind. The way that I think about it is like, I'm not really sure what the name, here's one example. I don't even know the name of this, but un rayón con todas las rayas, like something that is just like scrambled and like it's all over the place. That is sometimes how it feels. And being able to put all that mess in a piece of paper helps me make more sense of what it is. And I don't have to share it with like whoever. I don't have to share it with anyone, but it's mainly for me. So having this journal really can support with this process. And also, like, I mean, the other thing is like, I'm not sure about y'all, but when I read and I'm like getting very excited about things, I take notes all over my book, and then it just gets like all messy and all messed up. And like, I really like having, all of my thoughts in one place. So this can definitely be super helpful for this. Again, it's the main thing is, like allowing yourself to be honest with yourself, even if you don't want to say it out loud, you don't have to. And that's something that I'm learning. I feel that there's, a lot of times when we think, you have to tell your story. Doesn't mean you have to say it out loud, doesn't mean you have to tell it to other people, but you got to tell it to yourself, because that's how it really starts. So using the journal can definitely be, at the very beginning of this.
Thank you, Olga. Pia, about 3 minutes. That's all they told me. I'm not in charge.
So just really using the journal individually and collectively. I think when we first spoke about the journal, we went back and forth. Is this a tool for the classroom? And we really agreed, no, this is a tool for everyone to be able to use. So this is laying in your bed on a Sunday with a cup of tea. This is sitting around with your friends, with your family. This is in a church group. This is in a coffee shop. It really is meant to be a community care experience with still an emphasis on the power of you and your beauty. And so there's self-reflective exercises, there's some writing prompts. But again, if you don't feel comfortable writing it, speak it into your phone as a little voice thread, make a little vlog about yourself, or just draw a picture to represent what you're seeing or what you're feeling, because we did not want it to be something that folks felt that they couldn't be a part of. So it has images for us to write in. It should be fun for us. So it will be tapping into some of the most vulnerable pieces of ourselves, but doing so in, I think, a fun and engaging way that anybody of all ages could also be part of. So even think of it for your folks that are not necessarily social workers, to lead a group, maybe of family members as the social worker in the family, and have everyone engaged.
Wow, she really wants you to expose yourself. That's very interesting, Professor Pia. Revelation and insight. That's a journaling. Very nice. Thank you very much. Question and answer. Amelia, would you be taking that over, or Q&A? Because it's like 8 minutes.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to take over Q&A. First I want to say
Thank you, panelists. And this was a little fun. A little
Thank
fun.
you.
we have no hard stop here. So definitely don't want anyone to feel like they need to get in their questions in 8 minutes. I want to be mindful of the panelists' time, of course. But it's really important for everyone in this room to have time to connect and be with one another. So I'm just going to quiet. I have my own reactions. Amazing. This was amazing, but I want to hear from others. Does anyone want to unmute, ask a question, have a reaction, reflection? We'd love to hear from you.
There's a lot of people. There's like 97 people, I think.
I see
Great.
some of our upcoming authors in our next volume that's in the house. I don't know if they want to share a little bit. Or even some of the authors that were here from volume 1 and 2.
There are a
see-
couple hands up.
Yeah, I saw Mitzi had their hand up, but I
Awesome.
looked back down. So we're going to go to Viviana first.
I am so excited to purchase this. I feel like I've struggled purchasing journals for the last few years and started writing them and then realized it doesn't really fit me and who I am and just me as a person. So I'm excited to finally have that, something that I can just let loose in on those Sunday morning days, and something that I'm able to actually really connect with and see myself in. So again, thank you for creating these space and creating these amazing pieces of work for us.
Mitzi, I saw your hand was up. Feel free to unmute as well.
Hi everyone. So I am a student. Actually, I'm pursuing my bachelor's in social work and eventually a master's in social work. I just want to say that this was very inspiring because I am a undocumented immigrant who came here from Mexico. And Pia, thank you so, Professor Pia. Thank you so much on speaking on that aspect of like trying to speak Spanish, or like being a non-speaker. Like for me, it's really hard to like advocate for myself as an immigrant. So like this was very inspiring that sometimes like, record yourself and like acknowledge those feelings. This is really nice. It was really nice to be in this space. I feel comfortable. So thank you. And I will be purchasing the books. Thank you.
I know a few people have DM'd me privately and they want to know, when is the book being released? When is the journal being released? How can we get the book? It's being released for Social Work Month, and it's on March 4th, actually Saturday's March 4th. And we're going to be at Dallas at our first Latinx and Social Work Summit. One of our incredible contributing authors put the summit together to benefit the community in Dallas, and Dr. Leti Caravanos. And a few of us are going to be there, and we're going to be talking about our personal stories, and we're going to release the journal that day. We are really excited because the work that we're doing it as a collective. It's not just one-sided, it's not just one person. And we always like to share our work and build community together. And so the journal will be released for Social Work Month. And the proceeds of the journal are going to support social workers that want to be published, that want to share their stories, that want to continue doing this. And we have some of them here today that are going to be published in the next book, volume 3, that have been incredible. And we want to amplify their voices as madrinas ourselves and as mentors ourselves, because we want everyone to feel less alone and less isolated. So just stay tuned for the, just follow us on Instagram, follow us everywhere. So we can just, as soon as you see that it's being released, go ahead and grab it. And it's going to be wonderful to really kind of do this work as a community. And hopefully we will have more talks like this, and we can even process our stories together now. There's a tool. I'm so proud. Pia's been an amazing partner. And when I first told her about, the idea of having we called it a study guide first. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, first it was a study guide, and we're like, wait a minute, this is not a study guide. This is so much more than studying this. These are feelings. So as we continue to process and as we continue to do this work, it really transformed in what it needed to be, because we started reflecting on these stories. We had to read each story again and really hone in and really make sure that we are really identifying the voice of the author, and then ask the right reflective question so you can really reflect and even talk about whatever it is that's coming up for you. So it's been an amazing journey. I think Tiffany's hand is up.
Yes, Tiffany.
Oh, hi. I was just I was raising my hand because I was just so happy to hear that there's something like this available. Because I just I'm Caribbean, I'm Jamaican. So to hear there's the similarities in what I've experienced growing up as an immigrant is amazing. So I just wanted to just thank you guys for having this platform and like expressing your experiences. And I just wanted to just say that I can relate as well, especially when one of the ladies was talking about patois. I remember when I had first came to this country and I had an accent. And I remember how I felt somehow a sense of shame. And I just remember growing up practicing, trying to hide my accent. So it's just so interesting to see how the similar experiences when it comes to language and all of that. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Patricia, I see your hand up as well. Patricia, we can't hear you if you are speaking, or maybe, can you guys hear her? No. If you want to message me in the chat, maybe we can try and figure it out, but I cannot hear you at this moment, Patricia.
I think I did get another question in the chat quietly, and I'll just put it out there. People are asking, how can they be part of this? How can they be authors in the next book? How can they get involved? And we really want to find the most amazing ways to bring as many people in. If you want to share your narrative, if you want to share, and if you want to be part of this, please connect with us directly, connect with any of us. And a lot of people nominate another person, and then we connect with them. If it's all aligned, it just really organically happens. And we really want to make this accessible to many, many people so we can continue doing this and building community as long as we can. So just message us and we will definitely share how you can become involved.
And it's important to note also that you don't have to be in New York. You really don't. This is really a movement that is happening in the whole country. I was in Chicago when this happened, and I know there's folks that, California, Texas. So anywhere you are, we want to hear from you, we want to connect with you. So gotta note that.
We have so many amazing opportunities to connect and build community. We have like the author talks that we have been doing every month. And with volume 2 authors, we had Beauty, we had Antonio, we've had Dr. Letty, we had Rosita in the past author talks. And it's been creating and building. So we've had over 75 to 100 people come in from all across the world, from all the schools, and we provide it free because we believe that this is a labor of love, that this is needed for the students, this is needed for us. And this is all for the students, it is free because we don't want you to feel alone. We want you to know that you're not alone and that your voice does matter and whatever you're feeling is valid.
Well, I'm going to end it kind of right here then, just because I think that was a kind of a great way to button everything up together. I want to thank all of our panelists, Latinx and social work, for having this conversation tonight. Oh, no. Patricia, I see that you connected by phone, so I'm going to see if we can hear you. Oh, we cannot hear you. I'm so sorry, Patricia. I'm so sorry. If you shoot us an email, Patricia, I will definitely forward it over to the group. I know you're here quite frequently and I love hearing from you. So I'm so sorry that we couldn't tonight. I just want to thank everyone in Latinx and social work again. And really send folks to those links that Pilar has been putting in the chat box. There's the Latinx and social work link, and there's also their link to a lot of great resources and information, ways to keep in contact with this group. I'm also going to be giving Erica our list of attendees tonight to continue to stay in contact with you all. So please do that. So I just want to, again, thanks everyone for joining us.
Amelia, do you mind sharing a picture of the book? Would it be okay to just share?
I would
so
love
you guys
to.
can get a sneak peek, a picture of this beautiful cover. We published with a Latina author, not a Latina, well, she is actually a 29 times published author, a Latina publisher, Jacqueline Dries Camacho, Fig Factor, amazing. And it's been incredible to do this work together. And I really love, and I just want to give a big shout out again to Pia, because you were a trailblazer. You were like, no, this needs to be in the classroom. I'm doing this. And this is the beautiful book that we created. And if you look really deep past the journal, you see the tree that's in all our books. And the tree here represents all of us. Like, we're not monolithic. We are not identical. We're not the same. And we talk about the roots of where we come from. We talk about our land. We talk about our leaves that continue to fall, and they keep growing again, because we're going to continue. We're not going anywhere. And it's really, really important that you know that you are not alone. And we hope that this supports your healing journey. And we hope that this supports in building community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. I can tell, I don't know you well, I can tell you're a person that you mean every word you say. So I know that this is definitely not going away. This is a place that social workers are going to find refuge in for a long time. And I think that's really incredible what you all are accomplishing. So thank you again so much. I'm going to actually stop our recording. Oops, no, I think I stopped my share. That was wrong. Sorry about that. I'm going to stop our